guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my what I'm currently reading, what I've been loving. I have read 16 books in December. I do bi-monthly wrap-ups where I do a wrap-up twice a month because I read so much and I always forget details about books if I've read them too long ago. So I have 16 books to talk about. It is the 15th that I'm filming this. Yes, I have read a lot. Is this normal? It used to be. It's not anymore, but it is the holiday season and I have been crocheting a lot. If you've seen any of my vlogs, that means I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks. I have been flying through books, and I also have book clubs that happen. So I had readathon that I did too on the first day of December, where it was a 24-hour Christmas readathon. I had 2 book clubs, and then I had a Patreon read along of a series. So I have read a lot, and half of these roughly are, a little bit less than half, are Christmas romances. So we're just going to get into all the books I read because it's going to be a lot. So the first book that I read, I actually only had the last like 100 pages, if that, to read in December, but I did finish. And I actually ended up getting the ebook. I've just become such an ebook reader that even if I have the physical book, I'm going to download it as an ebook so that I can read it on my Kindle, because in bed I will always read at night on my Kindle and turn the lights off. So I got this from the library, and it is Reckless. This is book 2 to Powerless. I don't know actually if this has like a series title other than like the Powerless series, the Powerless trilogy. So we only have one more left, but this one I gave 5 stars. I love this series so much. Is it as good as book 1? No, but I appreciated the fact that they were not torn apart the entire book. So we have our society where if you don't have powers, you are taken out, and the hero is the king's like right-hand man, the king's assassin. He goes and does things for the king, and the king is his father, and his brother is next in line to the throne, and he has the power to be able to use any power around him, so he can tell if people don't have powers. But the people without powers are said to have nullified everybody else's powers, so they want them wiped out, and that's his job to do that. And the heroine is powerless, and she has been raised by her father to be very perceptive and notice things so that she can pull that off as like a mind power, like she can read people and they think she's like psychic or something. And so she ends up saving his life, and that gets the attention of the crown, and she ends up being pulled to this tournament where they have to like fight to the end to be the victor, and the hero's part of it too, and they go through this whole tournament. This one is what happens after that. Obviously, she's gonna have a romance with him. There's kind of like a little bit of tension between her and the brother too. Like the brother kind of likes her, but things happen. I would have, like, this is more like teetering on a 4.5 star. I would have liked something to happen with the brother's character that like really went there. I feel like there weren't super high stakes in here because there was no like true fear of things happening, if I'll say that. Like I feel like the chapters about the brother were very lackluster. I'm like, could have gone there and you didn't, but I really like the romance. I really like the action. I love the heroine, how she can take care of herself. She's grappling with the fact that she's killed a lot of people to survive, and it's so good. I love it so much. So 4.5, round up to 5. Really good. I am trying to get through my physical TBR, and only 3 of these books are on my physical TBR. Oh wait, no, I have this one. The next book started my reading Christmas novellas / Christmas romances. So, oh wow, okay, so I actually own a lot more of these than I thought. Hold on. I actually own 3 of these physically, the Christmas books that I read, and I didn't realize it because I read them all digitally. But first I read My Arc of the Christmas List by Maren Moore, and this was just a cutesy, small town, single dad romance. So I gave this one 4 stars. This one, our heroine is a elementary school teacher. One of her students is the hero's daughter, and they actually had dated in like high school or something, and it didn't work out, and so they went their separate ways, and now they're reconnected, and the daughter's like, I want to enter the Christmas like competition that happens in town every year, and they have a list to complete, and it's their romance. I will say, like, sometimes after reading like so many Christmas romances in a row, like by the end of this half of the month, I was like, they're all just like cute, and I would love for a little bit more to happen to make them stand out. So I think I'm gonna be a little bit more selective on my Christmas romances. So this one, 4 stars, cute. It's just a single dad, small town, adorable romance with some spice. 4 stars. It's good. And then I listened on audio, Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic Christmas romance. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I feel like, well, okay, the next 2 actually are 5 stars, but I did have a lot of 5 stars this month. But this one was good. So we have our 2 characters who actually used to be engaged when they were young, and they're both musicians. One is like, she was in a band and they were living in New York, but New York was really hard for her and she wanted to move to Nashville. The other one is in an orchestra in New York. And so one of them abandoned the other at the altar, and now they both are going home with friends and don't realize their friends are related. So they're both going home to the same home for Christmas without knowing. and they have to spend time together. And so it's their second chance, and it was really good. It did definitely rely a lot on miscommunication. Like, the reason one of them left them at the altar was she couldn't tell her how unhappy she was, so she just left. And I get, like, they were young. They were very, very young when they had gotten engaged. But now the other one will not communicate with anybody. And so, like, even her best friend doesn't know what had happened in her past. And they just have to confront things that happened, and they're spending time at their friend's house for Christmas during the Christmas season. It was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. Not my favorite from Ashley Herring Blake, but a solid sapphic Christmas romance. Then our group book pick for our readathon was My Darling December by Lauren Asher. This I gave 5 stars. This was so good because I do love a hero who is like all in smitten for the heroine. So she is attending her ex's wedding to her sister. No hard feelings. They had like gone on just a couple dates and they're like, this isn't working. But he fell in love with her sister, and she is falling for her ex's best friend who is part of the wedding as well. So they're all around each other a lot. He's a doctor, she's a nurse, and they work at the same hospital. And it's really adorable how often they get to see each other. And there's a lot of Christmas in here, and there's a lot of Legos in here. And I don't want to spoil anything beyond that, but I was like, this is adorable. Like, this is the cutest. I love a hero who is so smitten and taken with the heroine, and he's just like, I just want to be with you. And that's really what this book was. I had so much fun reading this, and it was just such a fun premise. It's like, oh, it's your ex's wedding to your sister, but like, it's not really that big of a deal, but now you're falling for your ex's best friend. And just like, everybody just finds someone they're supposed to be with. And I really, really loved it. If you're hesitant, I'll start it. 5 stars. Really love this one. And then my next one was a 5-star read too. So I picked up Chilled and Thrilled by Cleo White. And this one is actually a best friend's dad romance. And so I was like, oh, sometimes those don't work for me. Sometimes they do. And this one, again, we have a hero who's obsessed, like absolutely obsessed with her. So in this one, he's also her boss. So she lives with his daughter, and she's friends with his 2 daughters. And what happens is, for Christmas, both of his daughters are spending it elsewhere, and the heroine has a really horrible home life, and she just spends Christmas alone, but she doesn't tell anybody. She always says she has plans. She's spending it alone. And so they're at the office for like the last days before Christmas, like everyone goes home. The hero is like, I will give you a ride home. Like, it's dangerous out, it's snowy, let me take you home. She's like, no, I'll be fine. So he ends up like following her home anyway to make sure she's safe, and she almost gets plowed over by a car, and he saves her, but she gets pretty banged up and like hits her head, has a concussion. So he takes her to the hospital, and the people at the hospital are like, you can't be alone, like you have a concussion. And she's like, well, I'm gonna be alone for Christmas. And the hero's like, excuse me? And he literally has been pining over her for a year. Like, he has been into his daughter's best friend for over a year and is always around her at work. And so he is like, you're coming home with me. So he takes her to his nice mansion, and they get snowed in. And it is so good. It's kind of like a last ditch effort to finally like give in to their feelings, or they would like move on finally. But there's an app involved where the heroine decided to like sign up for this app, and the hero did too when he saw that she was on the app, and they match. And I did think this was gonna get a little like kinkier in that aspect, because the app asked like those kinds of questions, and it really didn't, but it was still a spicy fun time. Age gap, pining hero, so good, snowed in together on Christmas Day, and the drama of the daughters finding out was not bad. Like, I get really nervous about that, and it was not over the top, it was not over dramatic. It was really great. Set up the next book really well, which comes out in February, so I'm very, very excited for that. When I tell you, I have so many more of these than I thought. I just forgot I got all these in the mail. Next, I have Forever in the Highlands by Samantha Young, which I got in PR, so I did listen to this on audio. And this one is a friends to lovers, but like brother's best friend friends to lovers, and I really liked it. The beginning was definitely slow, and it took a little bit for something to happen where I was like, ooh, now I'm kind of invested. So they ended up having like a kiss happen, and then nothing happened. Okay, so it is in the synopsis. I just want to double check. So first, the heroine was a famous actress. So she left their small town, went and was on this show that was really successful, but she's really having a hard time dealing with being famous. So she quits and moves back to their small town, and she's trying out like writing. And the hero ends up having a baby dropped off at his door. I feel like that happens like 50 or 60% into this, so I didn't know it going into this because I don't read synopses or tropes when I usually go into books, but he is a single father and she has to help. So that's where the story goes. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Not my favorite in this series. There's definitely a few standouts that I'm obsessed with in this series, but such a cute way to end the series, and I'm excited to see what she's coming out with next though, because she is coming out with her 2nd gen to the On Dublin Street series. But definitely a fun, solid, small town Scottish romance series where overall I've given them all like 4 and 5 stars. This this one was a 4-star read for me. And I read High Noon by Nora Roberts. I actually have this in my last reading vlog that I did, so I will link that down below. But this one is a romantic suspense, and it has to do with the hostage negotiators. I thought was so cool. I love action movies. I love when there's like a lot of suspense in my romances. And so this one definitely reminded me of like an 80s action movie. So she is a hostage negotiator, and she has someone at her work who doesn't respect her, and he is not a good hostage negotiator, but he thinks because he's a man he can do it better. And so he basically like botches a job, and she makes sure he gets in trouble for it, and then he attacks her. So the beginning of this book is very hard to read because she is assaulted pretty brutally by this man, but she ends up leaning on this guy that she recently met, and they have a really adorable romance. And then we go through her and these hostage negotiations. That's so hard to say. Hostage negotiations. And someone starts sabotaging her. And I thought we knew who it was, but Nora likes to bamboozle us and like make us think we know, but we do not know. So I was shocked by the end of this. I was like, whoa. And she goes there with the suspense and the violence. Like, people die. And I was like, did that just happen? It did just happen. I flew through this book. I loved it. One of my new favorite Nora Roberts books. It's hard to read though because of that assault on Paige in the beginning, but I love the negotiator situations. There's a lot of people that do die in here. Please know that. It does not shy away from the violence, but I thought this was really good. 5 stars. Love the suspense. The ending kept me on my toes. So good. I just loved it. I own this one too, but it's up there. So then I read A Chance at Love by Beverly Jenkins, and this one unfortunately I'm giving 3 stars. I read this for historical hellions, and this one just was not my favorite of Nora's. This definitely lacked in a lot of like action plot happening. So most of this was very slice of life in the Western like setting in the United States, which is not my favorite already. And the heroine was great. She is very independent. She's wealthy. She comes for mail order brides, and she meets these 2 little girls, and they're like, oh my gosh, we want you to be our new mom. And they are living with their uncle, and it is their romance. And it was good, but I just wanted so much more to happen. They would like go to church, they would go to the bank, they would go here, they would go home, they would talk, and like that's all that happened. And I really need more in my romances to happen. So I've noticed that with some of Beverly Jenkins' books, they're definitely a lot slower, and this one mixed with that setting just wasn't my favorite. So I gave it 3 stars. I appreciated the heroine's character. I really liked her, but I'm not a character driven person. Like, I need a really good plot to love a book. So 3 stars for this one. Then every other book I read was the rest of the series. So I'm just going to talk about this series as a whole. I read the Wix series by Ashley Rostick. So this is book 1 is Find Me, Save Me is book 2, Love Me is book 3, and Free Me is book 4. I read this with my Patreon. They're all pretty short, and there was a really good Audible sale where I got 3 of the 4 on Audible. So I listened to the first 3. This one I actually had read back when it came out in 2021. I read the first book and I really liked it. I gave it a solid 4 stars. So our heroine is in witness protection because her stalker murdered her entire family. And so he's still on the loose, and she moves in with her uncle, who is a U.S. Marshal, and next to this house of 4 boys who don't have parents either. And 2 of them are in high school with her, and 2 of them are older and own a gym, and she is living with her uncle, and her uncle decides to leave to go try to catch this guy. So she's living alone in this house, and she has been trained by her uncle for like the past year to take care of herself. She knows how to use a gun. She knows how to protect herself. She knows all the moves, right? And she starts getting closer to the boys next door, and she falls for all 4 of them. I love serial killer romances. I love romantic suspense romances, and this really lacked in the suspense for me as a series as a whole. So the first book I gave 4 stars. I did really like it. However, reading them back to back really showed me the weaknesses of the series, because most of the suspense happens in her dreams of when she was attacked and when her family died. And those dreams happen through all 4 books. And then in book 4, they give us this long, lengthy scene of the actual attack of her parents and sister dying, and I'm like, give me the murderer now. Like, we don't see him until book 4. Like, he is nowhere in sight. And I was like, why is this a whole Witsec? I'm nervous about my serial killer finding me if he doesn't show up until book 4. All the books, so book 2 was my least favorite. I gave 3 stars. It was definitely very much a filler book. It was just her hanging out, falling for these 4 guys, so their relationships are being developed, and everybody in town hating her. So I don't know how many people someone could have hate them and attack them in one lifetime. She had her stalker who was obsessed with her, who killed her family. She has mean girls at school who hate her, who do bad things to her. She has then parents of those people trying to do bad things to her. And then she has someone at her gym that is obsessed with her also and wants to do bad things to her. And I'm like, this is getting to be a lot. And so a lot of the drama happened with just like people in their town. And I was like, if you have a serial killer who took out her entire family, where is he? Like, I want that drama and that suspense weaved throughout the entire book, not just in flashbacks. And the flashbacks got so old with those nightmares. And I think that the author did a really good job of developing only a couple of the relationships with the guys. Knox was my favorite, and it's because she spent the most time developing his romance with her. And I don't read a lot of Why Choose with brothers, and I don't know if that's for me, because in my mind I'm like, okay, because we're gonna have some group scenes, we're gonna have some watching scenes, and I was like, that's your brother. That's more than one of your brothers. And so I don't know if I love that. Usually when I read Why Choose, like a couple of them are brothers and the rest are just friends, and I like that. I also prefer when it's polyamorous, so I do like it more when the guys are with each other as well, and that's obviously not the case in this one. So there was just a lot of elements that didn't work for me. As a series as a whole, I would give it 3 stars. I gave this one 4 and 2, 3, books 3 and 4, 3.5, so maybe like 3.5 overall. I just wanted more. But that's the series. I read through it all. Not sure if I'd recommend. It was fast. I did enjoy book 1 the most, but kind of went downhill from here. Then I read an arc of Bourbon Secrets by Victoria Wilder. This is book 2 in the series, and this follows a single dad with glasses, and he is just perfection. So the heroine is actually a private investigator, and she lived in their small town. Something happened where she knew she could never stay, and she was top of her class in the police academy, wanted to be a police officer. Something happened where she's like, I can't be a police officer anymore. So now she's a private investigator and a burlesque dancer, and so she is currently on a job trying to get close to this guy and knows she has to go back home to dance to continue this job. And so she moves in next door to the single dad with 2 daughters, who I love the 2 daughters. They had really great personalities and a really great part of the plot, and I appreciate that so much in single parent romances. And they butt heads quite a bit in the beginning, and his daughters love her though. They come around all the time because she's staying with her sister who lives next door to him, and her sister and her do not have a good relationship because she feels like she abandoned them, and it's her trying to take down some people and make amends with her family and fall for the hot single dad next door. And it was so good. They fall so hard for each other, and I loved it. I love the suspense in here. It was really great at the end. I love this setting. I love these characters. I gave it 5 stars. Check out the series if you haven't yet. I cannot wait for book 3, but books 1 and 2, 5 stars. Love them. Then I read The Christmas Rebound by Callie Mel. I don't know if I rated this, it would be low. I don't think it's fair for me to rate this because this one was pure spice. All this was about was the heroine, who is a like trainer, athletic trainer, something for a hockey team, but we never see that. She sees this guy, this hockey player, at a party, and she's dating someone. He kisses her, and she's like, oh my gosh, and then shows up and realizes the guy she was dating invited his other girlfriend to Christmas, even though he knew she was coming. Kind of confused on that. And so she's like, what the heck? So then she leaves, goes to a bar, and sees this hockey player again, goes home with him and his best friend, and it's just their spicy time. And then we get an epilogue of them together, and I needed more plot. I needed more Christmas. Like, there was no Christmas in here, and nothing developed about anything. It was just pure spice. So I would like a little bit more development in my romances, so that's why I'm like, I really can't rate this. I didn't realize it was just like a spicy fun time. All the other novellas had a plot that I read this month, but this one did not. I'll just leave it at that. And I read The Holiday Clause by Anne Einerson, and this one is very similar to the Maren Moore one, where it's just a really cute small town Christmas romance. So the heroine is an event planner, and she is at her brother's engagement party and sees the hero in a photo booth. They kiss, because on the bingo card it's like, kiss someone at the party, and they realize who each other are. She knew it was him the whole time. He didn't realize it was his best friend's little sister all grown up. And then they meet each other again at Christmas time, where the grandmother's super cute and like very meddling, and ends up having to make him stay at her cottage because she's like, the inn is full, my cots are broken, you need to stay with her. And so lots of meddling in here, and they fall in love while planning a wedding for her brother. So she was planning a wedding at the inn during Christmas, and they cancel, and they're like, well, why don't we get married now? Like, perfect time. So they get married. She's planning the wedding while falling for her brother's best friend. Very cute, very Christmassy, very wedding, and it was very fun. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. But again, just another really cute small town Christmas romance with really fun characters. Okay, and the last book I read this month was For Lucy. This one is by Julie Ann, and I finally read this. I did not know I put it on my 2024 TBR either. I did a reaction video for my Patreon of that, and I was like, I might as well read this now because I got the audiobook, even though the library had it, which I didn't know. But this one, all I know is that it was a very emotional romance. And I really, really enjoyed it. I did give it 5 stars. I had my reservations about the heroine because this is a second chance divorce romance. So they got divorced because they lost their son. And it is 5 years later. The hero still is obsessed with her. He says my wife all the time, but she cannot forgive him about losing their son. They do have a teenage daughter, and so they have to see each other a lot still, and she is dating a doctor, and they are put through some more trials, and the daughter is hilarious. I love her character so much, and I love how she loves her parents so much, and I love how much the hero loved the heroine. And it's only told from his perspective, which is I think why I had such a hard time liking the heroine, because she's the reason they're not together. But we get a lot from her near the end about what caused their marriage to fall apart, and you're like, oh no, it really was the both of you. Like, it was the both of you. But it took the hero a while to realize that, because we were in his mind so much that I'm like, gosh, she's horrible. Like, why would she divorce him? Like, he's so madly in love with her. She's being unfair. And you're like, oh no, he should have done more. Like, he should have done more. Like, that is correct. And they have to overcome that to fall in love again. So when the title came in, I was like, holy crap. I was on a walk with my sister. Like, whenever these like bombs are dropped when I'm walking, listening to my audiobook, I vividly remember what I'm doing, where I am, because I turned to her and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what? I didn't see that coming, and I don't know if I should have, but I was like, whoa. And it was really good, really, really, really emotional. Make sure you're prepared to read something like this because it does deal with the death of a child, but I loved it. Second chance between a divorced couple, so good, 5 stars. Great book to end this video on. Those are all the books that I've read so far in the first half of the month. Let me know if you have read these and what your thoughts are, or what you've been reading lately. I would love to hear. And if you've made it this far, I guess I've read a lot of Christmas romances, so leave me a Christmas tree in the comments down below if you have made it this far, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.